Hi again, I'm Elizabeth, and welcome to Important Things to Know. Before you start with the activities, and even before you start homeschooling, I'd like to just discuss a few areas with you that you may not be aware of. The first area that I would like to talk about is routine and schedule. Now, children are creatures of habit. They like to know what comes next. They like to know what they're expected to do. And the easiest way to do that is to set a pretty good daily schedule where things are done at the same time all the time. Now, you might say, well, this is what we're trying to get away from. Well, you don't want to get away from that. Because again, children are creatures of habit. They like to know what they're expected to do and when. They like to know what comes up next. It gives them a sense of security, and it gives them a sense of power, and it's just a positive feeling. And that is what we want when we are teaching our children. It takes away the stress on the child of not knowing what they're supposed to do, or of always changing things up so that the schedule is haphazardous. That causes stress in the child, and that stress is going to inhibit learning. So it's very important that however you do your lessons, that you do them at the same time every day, and as much as you can, the same lessons. I think that if you are having a little bit of difficulty getting your child settled, I think you will find that if you do this, it's going to calm the child down. And your child is going to become very accustomed to doing what they're supposed to be doing at that certain time. Doesn't have to be a long schedule. You can start off very short with just a couple of things and then expand it and add two more things, just so your child knows what is coming up. It's very, very important. I'm sure that you will see a difference. I have watched videos where the parent says that you can homeschool at any time. Well, your whole day can be homeschooling, just with life skills. Yes, those can be done at any time. But if you are doing lessons, if you are doing language arts, if you're doing reading, or if you are doing mathematics, there should be a specific time that you do and practice and teach a certain skill. Reading can be done any time in the day. That is correct. But there might be certain skills, certain words, parts of speech, periods, commas, all those grammatical things that children need to know to be good writers and to be good readers. Those should be a lesson. And then whenever you read during the day, which I would suggest you do a lot of, you can point these out as you read and review what their purpose is, what the question mark does, what the exclamation mark does, what the comma does. And you will see that your children can become some very, very, very good readers. But again, have your time in the morning, 15, 20 minutes of instruction time. Have these instruction times laid out. Same every day. As short as you want them, you can expand them as you want them as you go along. So your child gets used to it. Your child knows what to do, what comes next. And yes, that is something that they do at school, and that is one of the good things at school is the scheduling. You have a little bit more freedom at home, and that just makes it all that much better. But there's nothing wrong with having a routine and a schedule. The brain works on schedule. It works on routine. It works on doing things in an organized fashion, and that's how it collects information. Haphazard information may stick and may not stick, may make a connection in the brain, may not make a connection in the brain, and may be lost. So you want to make sure that you plan your lessons, you have your times for your lessons, and then the rest of the day you can review and live your day, and all that is learning as well. So please try, because I think you will see a difference, and it's going to be a little bit better for you as the teacher as well. That you sit down, you know exactly what you're going to do, and you do it, and then it's done. And the rest of the day, again, you can just live and learn with life. So scheduling, routine, very, very, very important. The other thing I wanted to talk about was language. Language, again, another very important thing that we need to think about when teaching our children. Your children learn language all the time because they hear language. This is the time when they are given definition. If you are doing something and you are talking about what you are doing, the child is getting definition from watching you do as you speak. So as much as you can, try to just talk all the time as you're doing something, whatever it is you're doing, driving, whatever, because your child is going to just be picking up not only language and words, but the definition of that language and of those words. When you're working with my games that I'm going to show you, with my activities, verbalize what you're doing as you do it. I'm cutting, I am measuring, I'm taking this blue piece of paper, I'm going to just talk everything, especially with the young, very young children, because they will pick up all this language and, again, more importantly, all the definition of what you're talking about. So language is very, very important. And of course, again, reading to your children, reading picture books to your children. Again, they will also pick up all the definition of the language. Another thing I wanted to mention about routine, going back to routine, sometimes I'm sure you have noticed that your children may want you to repeat reading a story to them. And they may want it repeated over and over. This is because the more you read it, the more they know what's going to come next. And the more they enjoy hearing it, knowing what's going to come next. It's right out of a textbook. This is, again, your routine, the children knowing the schedule and knowing what comes next. It just makes them feel good, makes them feel secure, makes them feel like they know what's going on. So I just wanted to go back to that. So let's now talk about computers. Computers. I know that we all use computers. I know that we will all be using computers from now until forever. I have a computer, I have an iPhone, I have an iPad, carry it around with me all the time, so I know. If you ask me what somebody's phone number is, I couldn't tell you because it's on one of my electronic devices. Used to be I could tell you phone numbers, but I don't anymore. I don't know that that's a good thing. Our brains are capable, I'm reading this because it's so magnificent, are capable of having processing units that equal all the stars in 1,000 galaxies. 100 trillion possible connections times 10 in the brain. For such a small mechanism up in your head here, it is capable of infinite number of connections, of learning materials, of little bits of information. So when you're working with your child, these adorable, cute little bodies that you look at and you are teaching, please remember that what you are teaching is the brain, not this cute, adorable little body that you're looking at. You are teaching the brain. And this is why you need to know as much as you possibly can about how the brain functions, because all learning takes place in the brain. The more you know about it, the better you'll be able to plan and give lessons to your children. It's extremely important. A computer, you just push a button. That does nothing. and then there's a whole bunch of stuff flickering on a screen, and then that's it. So these materials that I'm showing you to how to make and how to use with your children are going to enhance all that learning, because they're not only going to be seeing it, they're going to be touching it and feeling it, seeing all the colors, manipulating the materials, and all those bits of information go into those 100 trillion times 10 possible connections. It is just so important. We don't want to waste the time working with a child. We want to make it count. So everything that you give your child in information, make sure that it counts. Make sure that it's age appropriate. A 5-year-old does not need to know about ancient history. A 5-year-old just needs to know mainly about their immediate surroundings, their home, their neighborhood, their community, and on as they go up grade level. So it's important to be sure you teach, you tell, you introduce materials that are useful for that particular age, that that child can use. Because the brain will shed, and the child will forget information that's not used, that has no connection in the brain. So be sure, follow your curriculums, follow your state objectives, and those should give you a pretty good guide. Ancient history will come, and you can teach that if that's your favorite thing. You can teach that later on, where your child has a better understanding of history and people in history. I was tutoring a little girl. I tutored her from kindergarten through grade 4. And early on, probably kindergarten, first grade, we were talking about the Pilgrims. It was Thanksgiving, talking about the Pilgrims. And she looked at me, and we were just discussing and talking about the Pilgrims, what they wore, what they ate, all that stuff, how they got here. And she looked at me and she said, "Miss Elizabeth?" I said, "Yes." "Were the Pilgrims real people?" So again, history is just something that, is it real? Did it happen? That understanding of what is past is not there yet. They live in the present. And that is what we need to understand. It takes time for children to understand that the past was part of the present. So you can't be teaching ancient history to a 5-year-old when she has no idea of history, of what happened, why, or when. But she did ask, and she just looked, and bright, and let me explain to you, she was a very bright child, very precocious, lots of language, just asked all kinds of questions. And she asked, were the Pilgrims real people? So, again, the brain, how much the brain knows, how much it can take in. It has its own schedule. It works on its own schedule. It has its own sequence. And if you try to jump the sequence, you're not going to get anywhere, because it's not going to make your child any smarter. And the knowledge, again, will probably be forgotten. So please, there is a book that I can share with you if you would like to find it. And it's called Teaching with the Brain in Mind. And it's a really good and easily read and understandable book that will give you a lot of information on how the brain works, how it collects and makes memory, which is learning. So if you want to look that one up, it's a good one. I will be quoting from it throughout my videos, but it might be a good book for you to have. So the computer. I know we use the computer, but please don't make it don't let the computer replace your child's brain. That's what I'm afraid of with all this AI coming out. It's a little bit overwhelming for me. So, I hope that this information helps you. I think it will. You've just taken on, in my opinion, as a teacher who has taught for 40 years, in my opinion, you have taken on a monumental task. It's not something that you can just do haphazardly. Again, have your lessons, and then the rest of the day can be your free time learning, your unschooling for the rest of the day. But there should be some kind of structured schooling. Just to create that structure in the brain. It is very, very necessary and very important. So I hope that you'll look into it, maybe learn a little bit more about how the brain works. There's a lot out there. I walk for 30 minutes a day, and I'm usually listening to some video on how the brain works. I've listened to many, many, many studies. And I've seen it in my 40 years of teaching. I've read about it many years back when I was in school, and I have seen it work. So it's all true. It does work. The brain is just a magnificent piece of machinery. So I hope it helps. So enjoy the videos and the activities. And again, these activities can be an art project for you and your child. They're kind of fun to make. They're very colorful, just using household things and things you can get at the dollar store. So I hope you enjoy them. So I hope to see you again soon. Thank you, and bye-bye.